Well, hello there, Space Monkeys. Welcome to Political Fight Club. In this episode, we're going to be talking about Tucker Carlson and Rachel Maddow, and I'm going to make fun of both of them, and it's more or less for the same thing. Now, before I started this YouTube channel, there was a story that came out about 8 or 9 months ago, and I think I saw it on the Ring of Fire. I will put the link below. I don't watch them much nowadays, but I did back then, and they broke the story that Tucker Carlson was being sued for some sort of slander. He had said on his show on Fox News that a Playboy model that had recently had an affair with Donald Trump, her name was McDougal, you guys may remember that, he said that she might be trying to blackmail Donald Trump or somehow strong him or bribe him behind the scenes. And then he was sued for saying that by Miss McDougal. And then the Fox News lawyers had to go in and argue in court that Tucker Carlson cannot commit slander because no reasonable person who watches his show considers what he says to be facts. He's not objective enough to commit slander because it's basically him just riffing and giving you opinions when he doesn't do any of his own research, and they won that lawsuit. They defended successfully Tucker Carlson from that lawsuit. Now, why do I bring this up? Because the same thing just happened where a judge, and in the first case it was a federal judge, I don't remember if it's a federal judge in Rachel Maddow's case, but they basically came to the same conclusion. Rachel Maddow was recently sued by One American News Network. Now, they're farther right than Fox News, and what Rachel Maddow said on her show was something to the effect of, that's a Russian, asset, they're completely funded by Russia. That's all Rachel Maddow knows how to say. She goes out there and just repeats Russia like a parrot every single night. She gets the orders from the higher up. That's her niche. That's what she does. And she has a whole lot of people who watch her show and just absorb complete conspiracy theories. Rachel Maddow does not talk facts. She talks opinions. So what happened was that the judge, again, ruled that no reasonable person who watches Rachel Maddow's show could possibly consider what she has to say a fact. So therefore, she can't possibly slander or misrepresent things because she's an opinion show. She's not a news show. Now, why is this significant? Because these are propaganda outlets on both sides of the aisle. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, they're not any different, you guys. The only difference is the narratives that they run, but all are basically equally false. And they're finding in actual courts now that all of these pundits, regardless of what color tie they wear to work, lie for a living or give very, very biased opinions that are not at all based in fact. So they're never getting nailed in these lawsuits because they're not even being considered under the definition of news, because they're not. So what I really want to make this episode about, and the go home or the take home message I want there to be, is if you are still watching MSNBC or CNN or Fox, just know you're just watching an opinion-based propaganda outlet. That's all it is. Nobody on any of those channels does good work. There are some people who do less good work than the others. I've seen decent stuff come from Mehdi Hasan at times, Zed Jelani on occasion, but for the most part, all of these people are propagandists. It's just to what extent. And if you would have lawsuits put on most of these people, 90% of the people who work on these mainstream media outlets, you would find the judge unable to nail them on slander because they don't actually do news, so they would make the same argument and they'd be correct. The average Rachel Maddow viewer or Sean Hannity viewer or Tucker Carlson viewer or Anderson Cooper viewer doesn't go there for facts. And anybody that's reasonable that watches these shows would not take these people seriously because they simply do not state the facts, they state their opinions. And they get their opinions from the higher up. So therefore, they're not news, they're not journalists, they're just propagandists. So stop watching these. They're already imploding. Most of the people that watch these networks are boomers. And they're dying right now because they're not going to be able to convert onto the internet, and they don't simply have enough truthful voices coming from the right or the left to be able to combat independent media online nowadays. So they're a dying breed, and for good reason, and let's push them further into extinction, guys. Stop watching mainstream media. Don't watch it at all. The only time you should be consuming mainstream media at all is if you're catching an embarrassing clip here or there on other independent news sources where that source is making fun of the mainstream media for having a horrible take. So you're going to get more objective shit from me, and all I am is a political jokester. I just come on here and make fun of people, but I do the news, and I give you my opinion along the way. But at least you know I'm not being paid by anybody. I'm not getting my orders from the higher up. And I think that that's the best way to get your news nowadays, is from a handful of people that you trust individually online that have no strings attached to them. But, I mean, if you want to keep taking your news from Muppets and Puppets, go ahead. Because all you're going to end up saying if you watch Rachel Maddow's show over the long term is Russia this, Russia that, Russia this, Russia that. If you watch Stuart Varney's show, it's going to be socialists suck, socialists are awful. If you watch Tucker Carlson's show, it's going to be, you know, Trump is pretty good, but I would be smarter on things like this. And you're going to get a little bit more of a calculated dose of your propaganda from Tucker. Depends on how you like your propaganda, guys. But if you don't like propaganda, I highly recommend you just leave these mainstream media outlets and pundits in the dust. Keep fighting the good fight out there, guys. This is hilarious. And the more people that they find that are pundits on these mainstream media networks who get lawsuits against them, and then this verdict comes back, the less people are going to trust them, and for good reason. I'll talk to you guys later.